Let's see.
I believe I'm out. Okay.
All righty. Our next speaker is Norm Carlson. Norm, for the last year, has been IOTA's coordinator of asteroidal occultations. He's a retired exploration geologist, and he is a longtime observer of lunar grazes, and he has been of great service to IOTA members with his compilation of their observations. He will speak about the best observed North American asteroidal occultation since our last meeting and perhaps a few other things. Go ahead, Norm.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted, and I'll go to a large screen there, but I'm not seeing the share button. Okay, let's try plan B. Okay, are you seeing a normal big screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. All right, thanks. Yep.
Yeah.
Let me add my congratulations to the award winners. Some very interesting history. I didn't know that even close to that much about any of those people. That was very nice. I've met Daryl Nye in the past, of course, but very good. My congratulations to all those award winners. So I'm going to present as many of the 2022 to 2023 interesting observations as possible. There were a lot of them. You're going to have to think of these coming slides as very short events, small asteroids. You're not going to be able to use a long exposure. No integration here. This is going to go fast. And in the frame of mind of many of the series and things that you watch on streaming and things, any episode will start with previously on LA Law or whatever you're watching. I'm going to start with a previous occultation, the last event that John Moore talked about in the meeting last year at this time, which was Antiope. And I'll also include an apology to everybody if I mispronounce either your name or the name of your favorite asteroid. I'm sure to do that. I've never had a class in mythology, and I don't speak many other languages, so I'm going to get a lot of this wrong. But John finished his talk last year with a quick rundown of the Antiope, August 8th Antiope occultation. The observers were mainly in Oklahoma and Texas, which was Skip Whitehurst up in Oklahoma, John Moore down in Texas, along with, I think his first name was Chris Kidd, and then myself further down in Texas. And I'm including that because the first interesting observation we're going to talk about for this year is Antiope. And this is what we got last year in August. Early August for Antiope. And this was a really encouraging result. Only 3 positive chords, but fit extremely nicely to the 3D shape models. The timing went well, the good quality data on all parts, and just fits. It's just very pleasing to see a fit like that. As we move on to the current year, Antiope occulted a 10th magnitude star on November 21st of 2022. That was the path, the general path. This is sort of a breakdown as far as our planning was going. There were 13, 14, one time I think 15 observers planned. This map shows Scott Messner clear up in Kansas in the upper left there, Vadim Nikitin in Colorado, Margaret Luce in New Mexico, and then a whole bunch of us down there in Arizona. This next view, what I've done is sort of condensed all those observers into the general area of Arizona to show you our planning here. And I've tried to enlarge my cursor. Hopefully it shows up, but the center line is the green line. These darkish blobs are the orientation and relative to each other. And the path is moving down to the southwest here. But this is what we were expecting. And just to condense the plot again, I've moved those northeastern observers to this area over here, and then have them in the correct position relative to the path center. So this is what we were expecting, and figured it was planned out quite well. The Dunhams had 2 sites well north of what we expected to be the northern limit of the northern body. And then Ted Blank had 3 setups, two of which we got good data for, and Dave Osper down here in Tucson, well south of the southern limit of the southern body. And then all of these observers in between. Then, as the veterans know, the area in between those 2 bodies is if you're in between the 2, you're going to get a miss, obviously, in this orientation. And apparently that's a when you make that, when you get that miss, you're in the Pillars of Hercules Club. Is what I'm told. Something to be proud of. 2 occultations occurred right around you, but you managed to miss, so you're special. But this was the layout we had in mind. Everything is looking good based on the prior Antiope events. We felt good about the path. Everything was looking good. Good weather all over the place. But as our results came in, positives are the green again, negatives are the red. As soon as all the results started coming in, it was obvious that something was definitely odd here. Since we had positives well north of the northern limit of the northern body, and positives well south of the southern limit of the southern body, there could be a gap called Pillars of Hercules in the middle, but we had 2 complete misses out here. It's kind of skewed to one side. The next clue that we got that something was odd was the light curve from Kevin Healy here in Phoenix, which is clearly very, very nicely, very pleasant curve, but two obviously distinct events. Now, since the orientation for the 2 bodies precludes him seeing both bodies from a single star, this arrangement and this light curve instantly led everybody to start looking at the layout of a double star. After a whole lot of discussion and bouncing and gnashing of teeth, and this was a fascinating review to be peripherally involved with. But John Moore and Dave Galt and Dave Harold seemed to all finally settle on this. So up very far north was Chris Patrick. He had a miss, and we fully expected that. But here you see the northern body, very well defined. There is one chord here. One of the Dunham's 3 chords that just for some reason is a little off, and we never figured that out. And then the southern body down here, very nicely defined, given everything. The position of what was called the primary star is here. The position of the secondary star is out here. You'll notice that they're very separated, more than the distance between the two bodies. Down here in the solution, the separation is 53 milliarc seconds. It's a big separation, and that's why we got such a confusing initial picture. Why Kevin Healy, who one of his chords is up here, number 7, and his other chord, and the chord that has the other event is down here on the other body, number 8. So even though he was at one site, he has 2 chords here listed. And what I've done is I've duplicated the 2 miss chords just for graphic purposes. So Steve Mesner's chord is in here twice, and my chord is in here twice because there was a miss in the Pillars of Hercules, and Steve and I also had a miss beyond the southern limit of the pair. So it gets quite interesting. This shows all the chords together, which is immediately confusing because things show up north and south of each other in an odd way when you're on the ground. For example, chord 2 and 3 are the Dunham's northernmost 2 sites. They're down here. They appear to be south of Tony George and Vadim Nicotine up here, even though they're north on the ground. In this projection, they're south because the occultation that these people were seeing were from 2 different stars. If we look at just the occultation from the primary, there's the 2 Dunham northernmost events. There's Kevin Healy's event for this, I think that was his first event. Then down here we have Wayne Thomas and Margaret Luce. Steve and I, Ted Blank and Dave Osber are all to the south of the southern body. If we look at from the perspective of the secondary star, now we see Tony George and Vadim up here, 6 and 7. 6 is one of the Dunham chords. 7 is the other Healy event. Here in the Pillars of Hercules is Steve Messner and I. And then 16, 17, and 18 is way down to the south by Tucson, is the 2 Ted Blank and Dave Osber chords. When you peel them back and look at them from the different angles, it all makes sense. I had to reverse engineer Dave Harold and Dave Galt and John Moore's results to really understand it myself. This was a mess. But going back to the layout on the ground, what I did was these are all the positions, the points. The blue line was the predicted path, things like that. But what I've done is draw on the shadows for the northern body from the primary star and the southern body for the primary star. So we see the Dunhams up here, Tony George, Vadim, and the Dunham's third setup are all missed. So actually they're in the Pillars of Hercules for the primary star. Down here, that's one of Healy's positive events, Wayne Thomas, Margaret Luce, and then beyond that, all of us had misses. If we draw the shadows for the secondary star, the Dunhams had 2 misses up there, but Tony George, Vadim, the other Dunham station, and Kevin Healy had events there. Wayne Thomas and Margaret Luce and Steve and I all had misses. We were in between. And then there's the southern body events that Ted Blank and Dave Osber got. And that's just the corresponding sky plane over there. If we combine the two, then we see everybody saw occultations that actually did see occultations. Kevin Healy is in this overlapping area where he saw both events, one right after the other. Wayne Thomas, and now we're into the southern part of the primary star. That's where both stars cause occultations. Anybody else who would have been in this central area would have seen two events, just like Kevin Healy. Wayne and Margaret saw occultations, and then Steve Messner and I are down here in this narrow strip where, even though there were two bodies to do occultations and two different stars to create them, Steve and I somehow managed to miss absolutely everything. I'm going to start some kind of a new certification for
Barry.
I think we deserve special recognition for this. It's one thing to miss when two bodies are there, and it's one thing to miss if there were two stars in one body, but we missed two stars and two bodies. So we're really special. Moving on, like I said, we're going quick here. One of the other really interesting events was Adelheid or Adelheid, I'm not sure, which is a possible satellite discovery. That was the path across the US, and it's good that good that it did that, because our Eastern observer was clear up here in Connecticut, Kevin Green, and clear down here on the opposite side of the continent almost is Paul Maui in Arizona. Those are the only two observers on this. Plotted all together, processed and everything. We have nice fit to the two positive chords, even though they're quite close, for the main body. And then here, almost 40 seconds after the main event, Kevin Green got a satellite. A 312 millisecond milliarc second distance there. Just really interesting, way out there. This is what the curves look like. There's the main body. This is Kevin's data, and there's the satellite. It's been gone over by multiple people, and it's being called a possible satellite discovery. So add Adelheid to your watch list as you're scanning down Occult Watcher. We need to confirm that event. Another really interesting event for the year was periodic comet Schwarzmann-Walkman 1. I believe this is only the second or third time that anybody's gotten an occultation by a comet. I suspect Dave Harrell will be talking about that, because there were one or two right before this one. This is the path here. I was set up down here right along the border with Mexico. Bob Jones was over here. The Dunhams, knowing full well that comets are notorious for not being exactly where they're supposed to be, observed over there and got a miss. If you're curious about what the what an occultation looks like by a comet, and none of us have ever seen it before, so but it looks exactly like an asteroid. We don't see any faint a gradual change from the coma or anything like that. I'm sure that it can and will happen, but at least this one for Schwarzmann-Walkman, just a really nice event. That's plotted up. I understand that there were a few other observers who got this event. Some of the recon people working with Mark Buey and John Heller got one or two detections, and I think one or two EV scope also, but I've not seen anything completely combined. But this is what the IOTA people got. Bob Jones right here, almost dead center, and me up a little north. Another possible satellite discovery, 906 Repsolda. That's the path. Went through California here, and Kirk Bender and Richard Nalthenius got 2 events. They were situated fairly closely, but that was probably good, fortuitous. This is what the sky plane looks like. A fairly decent fit to the assumed diameter, and then Kirk got a second event 160 milliarc seconds away, a little shorter in time than the other one, but still quite a ways out there. So this is another one to add to our watch list.
Yo, Vince, shut your bitch ass up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm going to ask people to please keep their microphones muted
Okay, sorry.
if they're not the designated speaker. And then if you
I'm
do wish to
gonna ask
unmute,
you
we
to
can
shut
take
your bitch
questions
ass up.
after the talk is complete. Thank you for keeping your microphone muted.
Oh God, I'm not doing that shit.
This is the light curve. The main event is over. Oh, sorry. Light curve is main event is over here. There's the satellite. I didn't get that marked in time for this, but again, another good event, and add Repsolda to your watch list. Andromache is another double star, interesting one. That's the primary curve, or the primary path down there. Fairly bright star, 11.9. This was Bob Jones, Greg Lazinga, and Chuck McPartland, all down here in California. And this was pretty clearly a double star event. You can see a definite 2-step thing here in the for Greg's data. A hint of it certainly there in Chuck's data, and then Bob Jones nice and flat. But as we'll see, he was the one that saw only one occultation. That's the ellipse that we went with. This is number 1 up here is Bob. He was the northernmost, and then Chuck and Greg Lazinga are shown twice each for each step. That's if you plot everything together. That's what it looks like if you plot only from the primary star's viewpoint and then the secondary star. Now, also during this past year, we've had 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 Didymos and Dimorphos events, and we can't possibly go through all those, but these are of course fascinating and useful because of the DART spacecraft. But the main thing here to notice is that by the time we get down in here in December of last year, 6 positive chords, no misses, and this is on a body that's only about 800 meters across. These are 2 samples. This is the one event where we got the Dimorphos satellite, Bob Jones out there. And then Paul Malley and I and Richard Nalthenius were here. Kirk Bender was out here, but had an equipment problem. But very, very good data. Like I say, this is 800 meters. So, I mean, Paul and I could see each other's lights. He was only a couple hundred yards down the road. And here's that one I mentioned earlier, 6 positive chords, no misses. On an 800 meter body. I mean, they really have that orbit nailed down, and the predictions are doing great. That's just a quick comparison of the plot that we were given, I think, by JPL before, showing us where we should be looking for Dimorphos. That's the results. Just their predictions and analysis were just dead on. Just a very, very quick plot showing that on these small events like this, Tantalus, Dimorphos, Apophis, things like that, we have to take into account elevation corrections. This is the center of the path of Didymos. This is where we project Dimorphos and so on. These are all elevation corrected. This is the path, if it's not been elevated elevation corrected. You can see they blend together here in a change of elevation. So that's the red dashed line, as if we did not use elevation corrected predictions. And if we shift everything, that's what it would look like. Elevation without a correction means that Bob Jones would have missed. Instead, he was dead on, and we finally got Dimorphos. Tantalus was very recent.
My coochie pink, my booty hole brown.
This was a nice bright star, 8.4. And we had 4, and I think maybe a 5th setup from Ted Blank. The Dunham showed up with 5 or 6 setups, which that's intimidating when you show up with 1 telescope and the people on each side of you show up with 5 or 6. But we did get Tantalus. That's important. It's an NEO. It's a PHA, potentially hazardous asteroid. 1 event of approximately the right size. It's only 1.7 kilometers. So lot of effort on that one. 11 chords, 1 positive, but it did work out well. So to end up, I'd like to thank the actual review team. The primary review team is here, what I call the R² team. That's Jerry, Bob Dunford, Ernie Iverson, Steve Mesner, and John Moore as the coordinator emeritus. It's R² because they are the ravenous reviewers. I have to keep feeding them reviews. They ask for them. Hard working. And then, of course, as mentioned earlier, Tony George. This is John Moore's nickname for him, the Shadow Whisperer. And Johnny Barton and Dave Eisfeld are the Tangra gurus for us here. And then Dave Galt and Dave Harold get to field all of our questions, especially from me as a newbie. So, and once again, I apologize for the mispronunciations, and I apologize for my slow startup, but I'm getting there, and things are just downright fascinating on this end of things. So that should do it. And
Any questions